Levi, married to my daughter, Enumclaw, Washington, said, well, we didn't, and once every 2 years we come out, make the family trip, and he said, we were going to make it last year, and so we're coming this summer. I said, okay, that sounds good. So he said, we already bought airplane tickets for everybody. They got 4 kids, and Jackie and Levi, and I said, sounds good. So come Christmas time, we throw out the notice and the cards, Christmas cards and stuff. We're going to do this thing. They're going to be around here. It's got to be a great time to do it. So probably maybe a month or 2 after that, we get this thing here in the mail. And it says, the best things in life are unexpected. Well, we had been out to the granddaughter's wedding in September, and then found out that she was pregnant and the baby was due now, today, this week, whatever. And since it's Grandma's going to be Grandma's first baby and our first great-grandchild, Mama wasn't going to leave, even call Washington. So that's why they're not here. But the world goes on, and we're all functions of these folks here. So I've got a number of things that I wanted to make sure that you understood. My wife Kathy is in the back. Can you stand up, please? There she is. I changed the gene pool a little bit. We went with the Norwegian Swedes. I don't know, maybe with the blonde hair, I don't know. Anyway, so we're really glad that you're all here. So Kathy and I have been working on it. A lot of people have been working on it. I wanted to give you a short rundown of the Grays. Who were they and where did they come from? We have pictures of Lizzie, and as she was called, and James Robert. Do I have, Sean, can you give me a hand?
Yeah.
And hold up those 2 pictures over there. Those pictures, if I'm not mistaken, have hung in the old Gray farm for many, many, many years. This is James Robert.
They're such good shape.
Yeah, James Robert and Lizzie Gray. Lizzie married James when she was 18. And all of you that are relatives came from these 2. All of you. And so,
unless you have a shirt that says "not a gray."
Yeah. If you're relatives, you have one of those shirts. There's only a couple of them around, but anyway, that's a neat thing. So they had 4 girls and a boy named Jim, and Jim was my dad. My sister-in-law Debbie can give you a rundown of some of those families. You visited with some of the families. Do you want to do now that, or should we do it a little bit later? What do you want to do, Deb?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Okay. Debbie has made a spectacular book here documenting the Gray family. For the Codas, there's some neat pictures of Irvin Lucille in there. And all the girls, the 4 girls. One of the things I know that on this book that I talked about, Daddy had his most embarrassing moments. He talked about the fact that he was pretty lonely. He was one boy, and the girls were growing up and gone, and so he had his friends and his ponies. He liked to ride pony, but James and Elizabeth had the height, Merle, Lucille, Jean, Dorothy, and James. And so you all kind of know which one of those you came from, but it's kind of interesting where they came from. I think Corrine, Susie, you guys remember the trips probably once a summer to go to St. Cloud, to go to the Paulsons and the Codas. To see the Codas, see the Paulsons, great fun. And that's how we got to know the Codas that are here. And of course, those ended many, many years ago. But so James Robert, my grandfather, came from the marriage of William Gray and Elizabeth Staples. I had a friend that got into genealogy a number of years ago, 25 years ago, and wanted to do a rundown on the Gray family, and he took that line from his grandfather, his father, and followed the Staple line back, and that's what this book is about. This book is where our genealogy goes from that marriage, and in the we're one of the few fortunate families that during the Dark Ages everybody's lineage was lost. Everybody except royalty. Everybody except kings and queens and those kinds of things. So he followed this back. 11th generation, our grandfather's Miles Standish from the Pilgrims. And I was surprised talking to some of the younger girls. They knew about the Pilgrims, but they had never heard of Miles Standish. So that's maybe what's being taught in our schools. I'm not sure, but at any rate, Miles Standish, and then Miles Standish was an Englishman. If you've done your Ancestry.com or Me in 23 or whatever, you end up with Irish, Scottish, but you also end up with a lot of English. And that's where that comes from, because Miles Standish was an Englishman. He came from a long line all the way up, kings, queens, barons, whatever. He was a military man, and he kept the colonists alive while those colonies were getting started. And so it's a very, very interesting book. If somebody wants to, some of my brothers and sisters have got those. If somebody wants to check that out and read about the Pilgrims and what went on, just let me know, and I can let you take a book along and check it out. So that was the Staples on the Gray Staples side. So William A. Gray and Elizabeth Staples settled and started the Gray Farm, now farmed by my sister Corrine and Lyle, the Petersons, right here. You want to just why don't we see the Peterson family? Have the Petersons stand up? Can we do that? Okay, they can do it, no problem. Woo!
Lyle Crane can introduce all their kids and grandkids.
Okay,
So,
Green, come up and introduce your kids and grandkids. You can do it. So far, we still all remember those, right? Here we go.
Okay, I'm Corrine. I'm the oldest daughter of Jim. And I have here, where's my oldest son? Ryan. Oh yeah, can't forget the sweetie I married, Lyle. Yeah, he's the big farmer. And we married the boy down the road, 4 miles down the road. My first...
That's only because I invited them to the cake.
Yes, my brothers were... Yes, they were very much in favor of him. So, anyhow, he's quite the farmer, and we've been able to keep it going, and now we have some sons and daughters involved in. A lot of the grandkids come and help at harvest and planting. So our oldest son is Ryan, he's here, and his son Aiden. And then we have Jordan, he is our second son, and he's got Kayla.
Or she has him.
Yes. Okay, come here. You want to introduce your brother and sisters?
they're very honest, true.
That's right. And you are? Jace and McKenna. Right. And then my daughter Shara She is my second daughter, and she's got 4 wonderful girls, and they are Sawyer,
Hi.
Kinsley,
Hi.
Campbell,
Hello.
and Ellis.
Hi.
Yeah. And so we had 5 kids, and we have 18 grandkids, and we're very proud of them all. And they help on the farm as much as possible. So we have a cabin here over on Two Inlets Lake, and we started building that in the year 2000. And it took us about 10 years, but we have come up here a lot. And if you see Lyle's name tag, he says the runner, because we have been running back and forth for many years. I mean, we farm, we cabin, we farm, we cabin. So.
Congratulations. Give them a round of applause. You know, an interesting fact that James A. and Elizabeth died in their early 40s, leaving our grandfather to run the farm and take care of his 3 other siblings. I think it's 3 or 4. Anyway, so he was 18 years old. Grandma came along at about that age and decided she was going to help take care of the kids, and she ended up marrying him, and along the line got another 4 or 5 kids. So that's the way that works. The Grays, generally speaking, are pretty long-lived. It was unusual for those 2 to pass away. Speaking of long-lived, Fred, would you like to talk about your family and your mother? Do it, Fred. Just do it.
Just add how many days you got?
You want that?
I don't need it.
He doesn't need it.
Well, I'm Fred. I'm the oldest of George and Dorothy Atton, A-T-T-O-N. And they are not, my mother was from the Midwest, and she was a Gray.
Yes. One of James's sisters.
Yes. And I have a sister Georgia, and a brother Bob, and a sister Tamara, and a sister Kimberly. And it can go on and on and on from there. And there will be stories and infamous detailings and famous detailings also. But I think that's probably deep enough.
Thank you, Fred. Appreciate it. So, I'm going to read something to you. Hopefully it's not too boring. It's a small tidbit from the Wheaton Gazette, and this actually comes from this book, which I had heard, I thought that Marilyn had put together, or some of Marilyn's people had put together. Do you recognize that at all?
I think they were.
I don't know, it came through, I think it came from Joe, perhaps. But at any rate,
My daughter Kathy put it together
okay,
for me.
okay. It's very interesting stuff.
Yes.
Very interesting stuff. So, the theme of this was, where did the Grays come from? So, here is an obituary from this man's father, who started the farm. Okay? It says, Traverse County lost one of our best citizens Saturday night. And he was born in Michigan, and he was one of the first to experience the hardships and privatization of the pioneer life here, being the first to locate in Traverse County. He took up his residence here in 1878, when this country was a wild wilderness, and ever since made his home on the old homestead. He settled in Leonardsville Township, which is where the Peterson farm is now today. His wife, 2 sons, 2 daughters. He possessed the sterling qualities that go to make up the character of an honest, honorable, and useful citizen. He was a man of influence in the community because he possessed good judgment, was fearless in advocating what he believed. Any of you can relate to that, perhaps, to be right. And of course, that's anybody's opinion, what's right. But his honesty and purpose were unquestioned. It can be said of him that every acquaintance held him in the highest esteem, and every neighbor was his warm personal friend. He discharged life's duties faithfully, and his chief concern was the comfort and happiness of his loved ones depended on him. He took a deep interest in public affairs, and his advice and assistance were always highly valued by those in or seeking public positions. His death is a loss to the county and a source of deep regret, particularly to the old settlers with who he had associated so long and was so highly prized his friendship. So that is where the Grays established and became part of their communities. Interesting spot. And let's see, I had another thing here. I'll read that a little bit later. But at any rate, William A's father was William Gray from Wigstown Shire, Scotland. And let's see, where is Joseph? Is Joseph? Yeah, there's Joseph back there. Joseph Gray came from Northern Ireland in 1778. So there's been Joseph Grays before, there's been Mary Grays before, there's been lots of Grays before. The Grays have gone back and forth from Scotland and Ireland, married back and forth. If you've ever done an ancestry test, you find Scottish, Irish, but lots of English ancestry too, and I talked about that. The English comes from the Miles Standish part of it, for all of us. Kings, queens, the English heritage, and it goes back. Some of you have seen the movie Braveheart years ago. Braveheart was William Wallace fighting with the Scots to free themselves from the English, and we actually are both. We're related to both William Wallace and Longshanks, the King of England, who was not very nice to those Scottish people. But it's interesting. So we go back through because of the lineage through kings and queens, Sir Knights, kings, this King of Spain, Queen of England, etc., all the way back down. And this book documents that, which is kind of interesting. Miles Standish was the 11th great-grandfather, all the way back to the 32nd great-grandfather, who was Charlemagne, the king of the Holy Roman Empire. And he was the one that established the rule of law in the world, basically. So, interesting stuff. Some of you care, some of you don't, but just giving you an idea of what's available. So, like I mentioned, Debbie's book, which is right here, you should try and take a good look at that. There's some neat pictures in here. It also documents our other side with the Geyers here, but there's Urban Lucille in there. There's some really neat stuff. Yeah, why don't you talk about the couple of families that you talked to that really couldn't make it here?
Okay.
And then introduce your family, please.
Okay.
Yes, do that.
And then sing and dance.
Maybe later.
No pressure.
Hi, family. My name is Debbie Gray, and I've visited with some of you on the phone. I love family, and I love connecting dots, which is why I scrapbook and put pictures together and journal things. All of Jim's sisters I loved. I loved Aunt Lucille, and I loved Aunt Jean, and I loved Aunt Dorothy. And Aunt Merle I only met once. She lives in California. So in the process of trying to find and locate all of the Gray family, all of you, I made some phone calls because I'm a really good talker. And I'm just going to bring you some news about the two families that aren't represented here, and that is Aunt Merle and Aunt Jean. I was able to get a hold of Stephen Heidman. Aunt Merle had two sons, Bill and Stephen. And I called Stephen at work, and I really didn't expect him to call me back, but he did. And he told me that he is 72 years old, and he has 21-year-old twin daughters and a 23-year-old daughter. and a stepdaughter. He's a widow. His wife passed away in 2015, so he raised those 3 girls himself. And his brother Bill was married, and his wife also passed, and that's all I know about him. In Aunt Jean's family, I've talked to Dick Paulson, and I tried to get a hold of Dick and Patty both, and Dick finally returned my call, and so I've got information on the board about his family. Patricia, it was so funny because today I was just leaving while we were running late to get over here, and the phone rings, and Don, Patricia's, Patty's husband, called just as I was walking out the door, and I said, you're the only kids that I don't have on the board. I don't know who's married and who isn't. So for those who care, Patricia has 4 daughters, and I know she's adopted all 4 of them: Jean, John, Laura, and Ted. And Jean has twin daughters that are just starting college, and Laura has 3 children, Noah, Isaiah, and Brianna. And John and Ted have no children. They're not married, they have no children. So, that's that. The rest of you, if you want to know about the Coders or the Paulsons, well, talk to the Coders and Paulsons.
That's right.
My family. My husband back there is Greg Gray.
My brother, one and only.
Yeah, the oldest of the Gray family, and he did lead them astray, probably. And by the way, I did fly with Jim. He took me up, and my son Aaron, we went up flying, and he let me fly. He never did any loops, though.
No, Luke, no.
But it was wonderful flying with him. So that's my son Aaron, our oldest, and Rachel, our oldest daughter, and Jessica, our second daughter, and Andrea, our third daughter. And we have 14 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. And I love family. And I love all of you, and I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Debbie. It would probably be a good time to talk about the Codas. Does somebody want to talk about the Codas? Joseph, have you been elected?
No, they don't want me to say anything.
Oh, it's one of those deals, huh?
But I'm gonna. Hi, I talk too much. I warn you.
If you need a glass of beer before you start, we can fix you up with
I
that.
talk long enough the way it is. Anyway, it's been quite a while since I've had beer. A week? No.
Here we go.
All right. As you were talking, Brian, I was thinking, first off, my brother Jim, my sister Marilyn, and all of her family, I think we should have you go through Marilyn's kids.
You can go through. Here we go. Do you remember them all, Colleen?
Come on.
Come on, Colleen. Colleen's good at this. Colleen's good at this. I'm the oldest.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Go ahead. Go. All right,
Of the Codas, how many kids? 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Marilyn is wore out now from the 8. But great family. Just love them all. Go ahead.
Okay, so there's 8 of us, 5 girls, 3 boys. My oldest sister is Debbie, and she has, Ann, you're gonna have to help me. She has 4 kids and how many grandkids? 5? Yeah. And Kathy has
a husband too, Joe. So
yes, Deb and Joe. This is my husband back here. He'll be helping me. And then comes Kathy, and she's been gone about a year and a half. She passed from cancer. She had 4 children with her husband Jim, and they have quite a few grandkids, 9 or 10. Yes. And then comes Annie. Annie had 5 kids. And Denny, how many? 13 grandkids. 13 grandkids Ann has. Then comes me, Colleen, and my husband Brian. We had 4, and we are about to have our 13th grandchild any day now. So then comes Johnny. Johnny is, and Wendy. They had 2 girls, and they have 4 grandchildren. Yeah. 3, 4. Okay. Then Marty, and he has 6 kids now? 5 kids. No grandkids yet. Nope. And then the baby is Chris, and he has 6 kids, none married yet. And that's our family, Marilyn and John's family.
Sheila.
Oh yeah, Sheila. Sorry. Oh boy, yeah, 8. Sheila has 3 girls and 3 grandkids. Yeah. And that's our family, Marilyn and our sis.
Well, my brother Jim and his wife on the end there, and a daughter, and a son are here. My only one that came, my grandsons, they've been looking down on me for years. There's 4 of them that aren't here. And there's 6'5", 6'4", 6'3". I question whether they were genetic.
They didn't come from Jim.
And then Josiah Swenson is my youngest daughter's son, and he's up with us in the metro area now, doing fabulous. He's just been a real joy to be around and to have around. And as you were talking earlier, I was thinking about a story. I love to go back and visit the farm. And we not only would pheasant hunt, sometimes, you know, everything. We'd go riding the hogs, which wasn't...
Did that back then too,
Yeah! I remember falling off into the, what is that called? Oh shit, I can't remember. But I remember one time where I went and visited them, not on the farm that you guys are on now, but anyway, I was out in the barn shooting barn swallows with my BB gun. And I was trying to get you and Greg to play ball, play catch, and riding the pigs, of course. And your mother, Edna, called my mother and said, "Would you come and pick up Joe? We can't get the kids to work." I always referred to the Grays as salt of the earth as a family, and they really are. And I just had great memories as a young one growing up. The only problem was I was the only city kid with all these country boys, and that's why your mom called.
I suppose, yeah. She was causing trouble, I suppose. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. You know, an interesting thought here. We had, of course, we had the portraits of Grandpa and Grandma, and a number of years ago, I took my dad, Jim, and we did a full-length videotape of Grandma. Somehow, I don't have that copy, but I did send copies to his sisters. And so if you dig around in their stuff, there's probably a VCR tape of Dad and Grandma talking about the early days on the prairie, because it was unbroken prairie when she came to the farm. And one of the interesting things that she told us is that, you know, nobody got any sleep on the farm. I said, well, why was that, Grandma? Because she said the blessed prairie chickens. She said, if you've ever heard of a prairie chicken, there's very few of them left around. There's some around Holly and whatever, but they boom early in the morning. They got air bladders and they go boom. And she said there was so many prairie chickens on the prairie that no one could get any sleep. By 5 o'clock they were popping, and so I don't think you guys have heard that on the farm, have you? As far as I know. But anyway, that was an interesting thought that it was that wild. And I think when William A. came out to homestead the farm, I think he came by train to Morris and then, I don't know, walked, rode, I don't know what he did. But at any rate, interesting times. My brother, and another fact is my brother Greg and I were helping. My dad was bucking hay and Greg and I were on top of the haystack while Grandpa Jim at 67 years of age, was stacking hay and pushing it around with a pitchfork, and pretty soon he just kind of slipped off the haystack, and he was gone. He had a heart attack at 67. I was 5 and Greg was 7, and that's the first time we saw somebody pass away. So that was kind of a shock to me, but we did see him in his last days, his last hours. I also have a couple of things. Let's see. Jordy, hold this for me so don't just squeal again. This is a firearm that you understand. Dad's had 4 sisters and himself, and he grew up pretty much by himself. The sisters were gone, and so his mother got this from her husband, which was Dad's grandfather, and so the great-great-grandfather to me. This is an old Winchester rifle that she gave to my dad because he had no firearms, and then her brother 20 years later came along, and he wanted that gun really, really bad, but Dad said, nope, Mom gave it to me and it's staying right here. And so this is going to go on down the line to Morley Grace, but it's a very, very old firearm. It's a 25-20 octangular barrel, lever action. You don't find guns that are made like that anymore. You just don't. It's an amazing piece. There's another thing that I wanted to show you, and I know that Fred, Joe, Jim will recognize. If you ever went and stayed at Grandma's, this chimed every hour at Grandma's. Every hour. She'd wind it up 2, 3, 4 times a day. I think we had it gone through once. It's hard to keep running. But you take the big key, wind it up. That's an old clock. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. I think you got the old China hutch or whatever that this thing used to set on, maybe? I don't remember, but anyway. Do you remember that, Fred?
Yeah, I think it was near the mantle.
It was near the mantle, yep. Joe, Jim, do you remember this?
Yes, very much so.
If you stayed at Grandma's,
There was a
Curse the
candy dish
thing.
by itself.
yeah.
Remember that?
So anyway, I just wanted to show people that. I thought that would be an interesting thing. I guess we haven't talked about our family. Kathy, would you want to come up here and tell them about you probably do. You just don't realize. Okay. Then Sean. Got it.
Well, all right. Before we get to us, I think we haven't got this side on Susie and Uncle Tom. If you guys want to come on, Susie, Uncle Tom, you know, which one of you wants to come up and explain?
Where is that? There's Uncle Tom.
Uncle Tom.
Tom's the talker.
Okay, Tom. Uncle Cheeks. This is Uncle Cheeks.
You want to explain why that
And
is?
he's Uncle Cheeks because we were at a fishing trip in Lake of the Woods many years ago. Caught tons of walleye, and we're in the fish cleaning shack. And me and my cousins were there. We were probably, you guys remember that? And like, Uncle Tom is sitting there cleaning all the walleye, and these other guys came in, and everybody had tons of walleye. They're all big fish, and then I'm in there, and I'm taking our fish out, and the other group leaves the fish cleaning shack, and Uncle Tom's I see him cleaning his fish, and I see him kind of look, and then he kind of looks over, and he makes sure those guys are gone. Goes like this, then he reaches down in the bucket and grabs their fish out of the bucket and starts cutting the cheeks out of their fish. Of these guys who just left like he's gonna get busted or something. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, these are good. You have to have these, you know? So from that point on, he's been Uncle Cheeks forever.
It's a different texture. It's amazing.
And I remember Aunt Susie was the closest in age to me. I remember, you know, as they were having Brad and Jackie and things like that. I remember you coming to, and Aunt Debbie, coming to babysit when my siblings were being born, and And so it's pretty, we're close in age. So a lot of great memories, but Uncle Tom, if you want to explain or introduce your family, that'd be awesome.
Thank you very much, Sean. I was blessed, truly blessed, to be able to be granted to marry Susie, the youngest of the Jimmy and Edna's.
Also running for office?
No, I am not. But
He could.
the thing that I loved about the Gray family was not just Jimmy and Edna and their children, but Jim's sisters, their families. They were so very, very welcoming. They brought you in. They loved you despite who you were, and would be more than willing and happy to draft and guide you into understanding what priorities, what family truly means. And Jimmy was a tremendous mentor for me growing up. Had a wonderful father, don't get me wrong, but Jimmy taught me so many valuable, valuable lessons. And that's why I'm so proud to be part of this family. And Susie and I get up every morning. We had 4 children in 5 years. I look in the mirror and I say, she loves you, don't you screw this up. So it's been quite a journey with Sue. We have 4 children. Our oldest is Holly Marie, right here, and she is married to Josh, and they have 2 children, Libby and Kaiden. Our second daughter is Roxanne. She is married to Fred Steiner, and Fred and Roxy have 4 children. 2 of them, what? And 1 in heaven.
And a grandchild.
And a grandchild.
Yeah, great.
But who is here today is Grace and Claire Berry, who is a barrel rider. So, unbelievable. So then, after that was Adam. Smiley Joe isn't here right now, but he served us well in the military and 3 tours overseas. He's coming a little bit later. Our photographer is a friend of Adam's. So I feel very, very privileged that Jimmy's belief in America, what it stands for, that our son was able to carry that on as well. Then our youngest is Camille Christine, and she is married to Jacob, who is playing on the swing back there. And they have 4 children.
And 5, 6 years? 6.
And 6 what?
In 6 years.
In 6 years. So I've taught them well. But we are very, very privileged to be part of your family. And we want to thank you so very, very much for coming. And if you have any questions, ask Sue. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. It's been fun. I know that Joe, Jim, the Codas all used to come out to the farm. We'd hunt pheasants, how we get to know each other. My brother-in-laws, Tommy, Lyle, we all get together and still hunt pheasants out there. We still drive semi out there when the corn harvest is going on. We're still somewhat involved in the farm, and we appreciate the heritage in all that we do.
If anybody else wants to come drive.
Yeah, I'm always looking for drivers.
This is actually recruiting.
Because some of us are getting old for driving semi, you know. I think I saw Fred's hand go up just a little bit.
She drives too fast.
I think, but I'm not sure. So anyway, we got to talk about our family quick.
Yeah, you go ahead, or you want me to? I'll do mine, and Brad can do his. And
Well, why don't we talk about the fact that my daughter, like I mentioned, is awaiting her first grandchild, and we are awaiting our first great-grandchild. It happened today. Who knows? Beyond Jackie and Levi, we have Sean and Carmen. Carmen sitting back right there. With London and Jade, they own this beautiful piece of property, which, by the way, we should give them a round of applause right now for allowing us to use this facility. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then we have Mr. Brad.
Brad can introduce his family.
Brad can introduce his family. Come over here. Just because you jimmied your finger playing football don't mean you can get out of this deal.
Hi there, everyone. So I'm Brad, the best son of the Gray clan. And over there is my beautiful wife, Lisa Marie. When we were earlier on in our relationship, we went out garage selling at one point, and I found this shirt for $25. It has sparkles and wild horses with Lisa on it. Like, I gotta have that. 'Cause even wild horses with sparkles couldn't drag me away. So we have 7 kids. We have Mary Therese is 26. She's a doctorate in physical therapy. Faustina is 24, almost 25, and she's pursuing her doctorate in occupational therapy. So they are very useful when it comes to dislocating your finger. So if anyone else has that issue.
These are bad patients.
And then Joseph is 16, Annie is 14, Elijah's 12, Noelle over there is 9, and Celeste is hiding in the back. She's 5. So just very, very blessed to have the family I have that we've been raising, but also the family that I've been born into. It's one of the things that I am always surprised by when we have family gatherings and holidays and that sort of thing, is that most of the people I know, they have certain apprehension about getting together with family over holidays and tension and drama, and it's just been an enormous blessing and a testament to Mom and Dad, the family that they've raised, that there's none of it. That every one of us absolutely loves each other, and that we're delighted for every opportunity we get to spend with one another. And so that's just a huge blessing, and I want to give applause to Mom and Dad for what they've done.
Well, second favorite son right there. But no, I'll have Carmen, if you want to come up here. My wife Carmen, and our son London right there, if you want to raise your hand. He's going to be a senior this year. Plays some soccer, so does Jade, our daughter. Where's Jade?
Running around, I think.
She has the long black hair.
She's a cute little Chinese girl running around here. We adopted her when she was 3, and I have to tell this quick story because I brought her back to China 2 weeks ago. And she super feels connected there, even though we left when she was 5. And she doesn't speak the language, but she really wanted to go see some people there. We lived in Beijing for 10 years, and so we have a lot of friends and partners, business partners over there. Kind of a big part of half of our family's Chinese, our dog's Chinese, you know? So I brought Jade over, and there was a meeting with 100 people, and I didn't prep her. I was just, JD, I want you to just get up, and I was gonna ask her a few questions all through translation. And so I didn't set her up for anything. I'm like, Jay, what are you excited about coming back to China? Are you excited? Yeah, I'm really excited. And so I was like, what are you excited about? She said, well, I guess I'm excited to meet more of my kind. Kind? What a kind, you know? It translated differently. It was the translator said I wanted to meet more Chinese people, but I was like trying so hard not to laugh. Yeah, but she's awesome. She's got an amazing spirit and heart, and so this is pretty fun stuff. But Carmen, do you want to just say a few words quick?
Okay. Just so you know, I'm the speaker in the family. Sean's blessed with amazing talent. He can speak to thousands and thousands of people and all around the world, and I'm proud of you. Yep, I love you. I also want to say I did marry into this family by choice. Now here's your compliment. I'm so lucky to have Kathy and Brian in my life. They're the greatest mother and father-in-law, and it's a blessing. And you know what? I am the favorite daughter-in-law. It's been my joke for a long time, right, Lisa? I married first. Did you marry? No, I married first. But anyways, I just want to say thanks for everybody coming out.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah, thank you.
well, yeah. But like I said, I'm the speaker. So God bless.
Last night we had a cousins thing here. It was just all of us first cousins. And I'm sorry, Holly and Josh, my mom said I can't play with you guys anymore. I remember about 4:30 this morning sitting down there, and it was a little late. But it was fun last night, wasn't it? That was a good time with all the cousins, you know. Even beating Shara and beanbags was kind of fun. I know, rematch today. And I'll let you finish up here, Dad. But I actually want to introduce my brother Bob, brother-in-law Bob, but he's my brother, because he has memories from Two Inlets that he brings up every time about the Gray family getting together. We're married to sisters. He's married to Carmen's sister, so he's a brother-in-law, but fortunate enough that I consider him a brother, not a brother-in-law. It's just, I know that you are like that with your brother-in-laws.
Yep.
It's, you kind of get lucky sometimes. I know some people that hate hanging out with their in-laws. I love hanging out with mine. But you always bring up a story about Two Inlets with the Gray family, like from the very first time for 20, almost 30 years now. You know, what do you remember?
First of all, I'm number 4.
Son number 4.
I'm petitioning to be number 3 because the little guy's not here. We're going to send him a video here later. But one of the fondest memories I have of this family had to have been 25 years ago. Two Inlets. I don't know if your cabin was even built yet, but it was the old hunting shack. Grandpa Jim and Edna had the camper on the other side where we used to hang deer at. And it was the 4th of July, and we had picnic tables with the little, like this on. We all got together, all held hands and said a prayer, and had watermelon. And it was the fondest memory I ever had of the family. I mean, great people. I mean, it's I'm blessed to be a part of this family as an adopted number 3. And I can do it. I know I can do it.
Dr. Levi, I don't know what to see.
All right, well, here.
Thanks, Bob. Give Bob a round of applause. So, did we miss anybody that needs to introduce their families? I don't think so. No? Okay. Dad, let you finish up here.
Okay. Been long enough, so did a little commercial here by the Guardian. Okay, so unit number 10, where the 2 bathrooms are over there, that is a rental unit. That is got 3 bedrooms, 4 beds in it. And if somebody wanted to bring their family up for a week at Potato Lake, we need to talk to this woman. He rents that out. Never know, he could possibly give you a family discount. Depends how much beer you get into him. But at any rate, that is a nice unit. And so that's always a possibility. If any of you have ever been to any Scottish Highlander games or saw the Celtic River Dance music, if I have it extra bad because my grandmother on the other side was 100% Irish. But if any of you have seen that and that music really speaks to you, that's your gene that's coming through from Ireland and Scotland. Nice.
There you go.
Such a hat. So, Kathy and I are, and Karina Lyle are heading for Ireland September 5th. Looking forward to spectacular music on the coast. Those people, 20-some years ago, Carmen and Sean and I went to Donegal, I think it was, Dingle, Donegal, one of the two. And the Irish have a habit of everybody plays everything, and then they have a booth and sit down there and 4 or 5 people start playing, and somebody else comes in and they start playing and somebody else leaves, and they just kind of change off and on, and about 10 o'clock at night, and this is no lie, this old guy comes in and the whole bar just goes quiet. And he literally stumps across the floor. He's got a peg leg and he's got a sailor's cap on. And he sits on a 3-legged stool and he starts singing, and he just brings tears to your eyes. Unbelievable. So if Irish music does that to you, that's why. You got Scottish, Irish, English, and now you know where you came from, and hoping that some of this stuff gave you an insight of who you might be or why you have some things that I ran across this thing, Corrine, from the Graceville Public School, and we talked about the long lost, the relative that everybody thought was such a blessing to have in the country, and this is my father, who was lying about his age. He's only 17 and he wants to be a pilot. And so he's got a letter of recommendation from the Graceville Public Schools, and says, I'm happy to recommend James Gray as a applicant to the Naval Aviation Cadet Service. I've been an English instructor to James for the past year, and as such I feel qualified in speaking of both his academic work and his industrialness. He's above average in schoolwork, as well as being very active in various school activities. His moral character is of good standing and he possesses no bad habits. Quite a person. He comes from a family with an excellent background and long standing in the community. And so he heartily recommends Jim for the cadet school. So, interesting where you come from. We can all aspire to that, right? I thank you guys all for coming. We've got bean bags, beach, beer, and many different games and more things to discuss. So this probably got too long, but it was good.
Brian,
A lot of you.
Brian, I do have to say that Dad always talked about a name. That you can never replace a name and keep it. Keep your
No.
name clean. Keep your
That
name.
is true.
He-
And there was a number of times.
highly about the name and keep
The
it
name
that.
is. There was a number of times I went into the
Honorable.
bank to meet the local banker that he did. Like, oh, you're Jim Gray's son? Yeah. Sit down. We'll talk. Yeah. A good name is worth a lot. So there you are.
That's
I
great.
just want to say something real quick. Kathy needs to speak.
She does.
The Vikings from the north.
That's her favorite thing.
I know. If I'd have asked her, Dad would have asked, then no. So we'll let Mom finish it up before we break. And I don't think this was too long. I thought it was really good, Dad. Thanks for all of your efforts.
There you go.
And so, did you hear about the three-legged dog? This is a good family. This is a fun family. And it's been good to see the extended family and nobody had to die for us to get together, which is really, really good. So, I will leave you with a little toast. There are good ships, there are wood ships. There are ships that sail the sea, but the best ship is a friendship. So here's to toast to y'all and me.
Thank you, everybody. There is a keg over there. There's stuff here. The bathrooms are over there. The beach is that way. And hang out, have fun. You're welcome to stay as long as you like, as long as you're not named Holly and Josh. Other than that,
Yeah, there's these books up here if you want to look at them.
but come check all this stuff out. Love you all, and thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thanks.